Good morning, my name is Mr. Blagan, and today I'm going to be going over ALEKS. The first thing I'd like to go over is, what is ALEKS? Primarily a tool for teaching students the curriculum at their own pace, so that it instructs, it assesses, and it guides the pace of instruction so that each student can be working on what is challenging for them until they master it. Next, I'll be covering how to log into ALEKS, where you can find your user IDs and passwords. Next, I'll be covering my expectations for you when you're using ALEKS. And finally, I'll be covering how I'm going to be grading you. To answer the question, what is ALEKS? We're on ALEKS's own website, and they're answering that question for us. ALEKS is the Assessment and Learning and Knowledge Spaces. I see what you did there, Alex. I feel like you kind of fudged it on this here acronym. You added an extra vowel there. Anyhow, what ALEKS is it's an adaptive software. It will teach students the entire curriculum, and when students take knowledge checks, as well as based on how they do on their actual work, it will adjust the speed of their curriculum, give them review space, and or remediation to make sure that they've mastered all the skills they'll need to continue progressing. So whether a student joins day one or in the middle of the third quarter, they'll be able to receive appropriate instruction at their level through ALEKS. Our goal will be to complete the 9th grade Algebra 1 curriculum this year, and students are going to be working towards that with their weekly goals, which will be different for every student. The first thing I'm going to have students do is they're going to take a placement assessment. So what they'll be doing is setting aside 30 to 60 minutes, so about 2 class periods, to answer 30 questions, which will allow ALEKS to analyze and place them where it thinks they should be in the curriculum. Of course, it is an adaptive program, so if they do very poorly that day, but they do well on future knowledge checks, they can be moved forward in the curriculum. Conversely, if they keep failing topics, ALEKS will analyze where they're making mistakes and move them back to topics that are appropriate for their level. We can see an example of ALEKS and how it works here. So this is the topic, solving a linear equation with several occurrences of the variables. So just like a textbook, ALEKS is not only going to show you what to do, but also explain with line-by-line work and explanations to the right each step of the process. And each of these underlined terms will have hyperlinks that students can click if they don't know what that term means. That way, not only do they understand the concept, but any underlying academic vocabulary. Now, when it comes to the question, how do you log into ALEKS? What I'll generally refer to whenever you have a question about how to do something is my Google Classroom. So we're here on the landing page of my Google Classroom. You'll notice at the top here, you'll see upcoming, we have an ALEKS initial knowledge check due soon. Now if I scroll all the way down to the base of the stream, I've asked students to please bookmark these. So they may want to create a new bookmarks folder with all of my Math 1 classroom resources. Now, within these links for the start of class, you'll see a link to ALEKS itself, as well as a link to the ALEKS logins and weekly goals for this year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the ALEKS page. You can see here, here's the landing page of ALEKS. You'll need to log in with your own username and password. To get those, let's go back to Classroom, and we're going to open up the ALEKS logins and weekly goals. Here we see Jane Doe, who is my example student, and here's her login name, her password. I want to make sure I bookmark this. So at the upper right-hand corner in your browser, you should have a star that is probably gray right now. You'll want to bookmark this and save it. That way we can easily reference it later. Let's go over to the ALEKS login tab. So if I'm logging in as Jane Doe, password, I'm just copying and pasting from my previous tab. And before I log in, I'm also going to bookmark this page. So that way I have both my ALEKS and my logins bookmarked, and I don't have to find that post from Mr. Blagan in his stream every time. Now this is Jane's first time logging into ALEKS. If it's your first time, you'll likely see the same introduction screen. All right, so we see in the upper left-hand corner, this is a drop-down menu, just like in the upper right of your browser. You have these 3 little lines, just like your 3 dots, which will have a tool cluster under them. If you have messages from me, new assessments, etc., you'll see notifications in the upper right. This is where you can, but not are required to, do what is suggested next. So let's go ahead and take the tools tutorial, since right now that's all we can do. All right, we are back at our landing page. So everyone that tuned out, welcome back. Now we're going to go ahead and begin our initial knowledge check, which is, of course, due this Thursday. All of the problems in ALEKS are procedurally generated. That means they're randomly created through any combination of numbers, variables, and operations that are available within that skill. So please do set aside whatever you're doing. Have a pencil and piece of paper ready for this. And please do this on your own, since this will dictate where ALEKS sets you. If it sets you very far ahead because someone helped you, then when you go to do those problems, you're going to end up failing the topic over and over, and it'll kick you back, make you take another knowledge check, and you'll be back where you began. So please, do the work yourself. It's the only way we're going to get through this. Let's go ahead and start. This has to solve an inequality for y. Could be using opposite operations here. Now I'm going to complete the rest of this initial knowledge check as if I were a student just arriving at Mifflin High School. So let's go ahead and jump ahead to the results.
1 hour later.
Now, once you're done with your knowledge check, you'll see a ALEKS pie pop up just like this, which shows how many of the topics ALEKS believes you've mastered. And of course, there'll be a percentage here, which I'll use to fill in your weekly goal sheet. Now, the higher percentage you get on this initial knowledge check means the less there is of the course to complete. So your goals for each week will actually be lower. You'll have to do less work each week the better you do on this initial knowledge check. It is in your best interest to take your time and do well on this. It should take you approximately 30 minutes to 1 hour based on how much of it you can do. Now, once you've completed the knowledge check, it'll take you back to the home screen with an updated ALEKS pie. You can see the area in which I did best was real numbers. The areas in which I did worst were these empty pie slices. It didn't show that I had mastered any of these topics. So, once you have completed your initial knowledge check and you have a goal, you're going to go ahead and start your path. ALEKS believes that I should start on combining like terms. It'll explain to me what I'm going to be doing, and if I don't know what these terms mean, I can click those hyperlinks and they'll pop up an explanation as well as some examples of them. If I don't know what it's asking me to do, again, any of these underlined words I can click on to get more information. On the topic of grading, we're going to look at two things. We're going to look back at Google Classroom, and I noticed that my first assignment that was due was this initial knowledge check. So if I click that link, it'll show me that this assignment is worth 30 points, and how I'm going to be grading this initial knowledge check is for completion and effort. We did take between 30 and 60 minutes. We did our best on it, so we would get full credit for this. Now, once, of course, we're done, since we're not adding any work, we're going to go ahead and mark this as done so that my teacher can see that I have finished my knowledge check and can grade it. Once that's done, I should have a score for this. Now, how will I be graded in future weeks? To understand that, let's look back at our ALEKS logins and weekly goals sheet. Now, assuming the first week, all I had to do was complete my knowledge check, I certainly met my goal, right? So my second week, it's going to automatically populate my goal as being higher. So we start our second week out at 18. Now, second week, let's say we don't do too well. We get to 20% of our ALEKS pie. We're just starting off the year. We're still in summer mode. And you'll notice if I only got 2 out of the 4% increase I needed for the week, well, I'm only going to get half the credit for the week. So, week 3, if I started with 20%, well, now I need to get to 24. But I remember I lost 50 points the previous week. So what if I beat my goal? Well, let's say if instead of doing 24% and getting to 100% of my goal, let's say I beat my goal by getting 26%. You'll notice my grade for the week can be higher than 100. So if I exceeded my goal, I can make up for any points that I missed in earlier weeks. So I'm going to give you developmentally appropriate goals each week. But if you exceed those goals, you can make up for lost progress on weeks you weren't as productive, or work towards finishing the course early, which of course I would provide extra credit opportunities and preparation for the next course in your sequence. So that explains my grading policy. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this gave you an idea of how I'm going to be using ALEKS to guide the curriculum and instruction, supplementing it of course with videos, Desmos lessons, and Edpuzzles so that we can ensure all students are able to progress at a pace that is appropriate for them, as well as master all the material in Algebra 1. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye!